Arizona is out of control. Cops are ignoring the people. Homeless in America by StreetSide witness. Phoenix glows like a furnace at midnight. Asphalt breathes heat. Sirens cut the air, hard and distant. Under a freeway, a grandmother wraps a space blanket around her grandchild and stares at the sky. Tonight, Arizona feels like a choice we keep postponing. I'm here with you, boots on blistered pavement, asking what it means to be safe, housed, and seen. Streetlights flicker. The air tastes like hot metal. You can feel the city holding its breath. Here's the shock. On a single night in 2024, 14,737 Arizonans experienced homelessness. Roughly half were unsheltered, sleeping outside, in cars, or in places not meant for people. Last summer was the hottest on record in Metro Phoenix. 602 people died from heat across Maricopa County. Many were unhoused. Officials say at least half of heat deaths were among people experiencing homelessness. Meanwhile, the nation's highest court greenlit stronger camping bans. Cities can fine or arrest people for sleeping outside even when no shelter exists. And then, the bombshell. The Department of Justice said Phoenix police unlawfully detained unhoused people and trashed belongings. A year later, the DOJ dropped its probe and retracted the findings. The human story didn't retract. So what happens when heat, housing costs, and hard law meet a family living in a minivan? What happens when officers are told to clear sidewalks while clinics can't find a psych bed? If you believe stories can shape policy, smash that like, subscribe, and join the journey. We're in Arizona to ask one question. Are we protecting public order or ignoring the public? First desert scale. The camera lifts over the valley. Rows of tan roofs, a wash of concrete. Palms stand like metronomes in the heat. In the shadows, lives. On a single night in 2024, Arizona counted 14,737 people experiencing homelessness. 7,291 were unsheltered. 7,446 sheltered. Numbers draw a border, but they don't tell you how it feels at noon. Bus stops without shade, a plastic jug sloshing like a lifeline, a library lobby full before opening. Security guards become heat medics. Case managers become traffic controllers. Everyone improvises around scarcity. In Maricopa County alone, the unsheltered count fell from 4,908 in 2023 to 4,076 in 2024. That's progress and pressure, because tents didn't turn into leases overnight. But heat doesn't care about progress. In 2024, 602 heat-linked deaths were confirmed in the county, down from 645 the year before. Fewer deaths, still a staggering toll. Officials say at least 50% of 2024 victims were unhoused. Walk any block downtown and rents tell another story. As of August 2025, the average Phoenix rent hovered around $1,931 a month. Wages didn't keep pace. How big is the gap? Analysts estimate Arizona is short about 56,600 homes statewide as of late 2024, with shortages persisting into 2025. The gap lands on sidewalks. A mother times her day around cooling centers. A veteran guards his meds from melting. A teenager picks a parking lot with cameras, hoping visibility means safety. Outreach teams triage with bottled water and phone chargers, then try to thread people into a system already full. Listen to the crosstalk at encampment edges. Business owners say they're losing customers. Residents worry about trash and needles. Unhoused neighbors ask for bathrooms, trash pickup, and a place where they aren't moved at dawn. Officers ask for clearer rules and beds to offer. Everyone wants relief. The truth, on the ground, is arithmetic and ethics. Shelter capacity versus human bodies. Thermometers versus ordinances. Budgets versus funerals. You can count the cots. You can't count the near misses. A cold bottle at the right moment. A ride to a clinic. A stranger's shade. When a state runs that hot, that short, and that expensive, where exactly does a family go on the night the rent is due? Marcos, 44, line cook, Phoenix. He kept his rent paid until a wrist injury benched him from the grill. 3 weeks later, he was in a motel. 3 months later, he was in a tent. We widen the frame next. What's pushing people to the edge? and why the edges are getting sharper. 2. The price. Beneath, root causes aren't mysterious. Housing costs rose, wages lagged, and permits slowed. The average rent in Phoenix hovers near $1,931. The statewide housing deficit sits around 56,000 units. But numbers don't sweat. People do. A family pays late fees, then storage fees, then hotel rates by the week. A paycheck collapses under daycare costs and gas. One ER bill becomes a broken lease. We call it financial literacy. It's really math with missing variables: time, shade, and a landlord's patience. Arizona reported no ongoing state rental assistance program by late 2024. Pandemic. Era relief closed. Bridge money became a bridge to nowhere for many. Heat multiplies the cost of being poor. Desert nights often stay punishingly hot. Many evenings barely cool at all. Above 90 degrees Fahrenheit means batteries die faster and insulin struggles in a backpack. A tent is an oven at noon, a wind sail by evening. People trade sleep for safety. They trade shade for a charge. In 2024, county health officials said more than 60% of heat deaths were heat-caused, not merely contributed. That's the body saying there was no buffer left. No water, no AC, no mercy. Then there's mental health, the pressure most people can't see. In 2024, Arizona counted roughly 4,221 inpatient psychiatric beds across hospitals and licensed residential facilities. One key Phoenix facility closed in 2024, tightening capacity when the need spiked. When the bed isn't there, the street is. When the clinic can't hold you, the jail will. Not because deputies want it, but because the system runs out of doors that open. A mother calls the crisis line, waits, then waits again. A mobile team drives across town with a list of names older than yesterday. Permits lag. Modular units stack up in boardrooms, not on lots. Neighborhood meetings last months. Lawsuits stretch into years. Meanwhile, families rotate between relatives, cars, and weekly motels where the nightly rate equals a monthly lease after 2 weeks. We like to ask why people don't just move. Move where? To a cheaper county with no transit and fewer jobs? To a shelter that separates couples and bans pets? To a couch that's already hosting someone else's crisis? If the ER is full, the shelter is full, and the psych unit is full, who do we expect will carry the burden? Nurses or patrol officers? Tasha, 29, nursing assistant, Tucson. Rent jumped to $210 in a single renewal. She couch surfed with her toddler. A friend watched the child at night so Tasha could take double shifts. She still fell behind. 3. Sunstroke Survival. Daily survival is logistics. Shade by noon, ice by 2, a bathroom you won't be chased from, a quiet corner by dusk where no one kicks you awake. You plan the day around the sun like it's a boss who never clocks out. In 2024's heat season, officials confirmed 602 heat deaths across Maricopa County. They say at least half were unhoused. Many involved drugs or alcohol. Pain management by any means in a furnace. Fentanyl shadows everything. The county medical examiner reports fentanyl involved in 60% of drug deaths. More than 3 people die daily on average countywide. So mornings are triage. Outreach teams race the sun with water, hats, and naloxone. Cooling centers unlock early. Libraries fill fast. After record heat in 2023, Phoenix opened more overnight options so people could actually sleep in cool air. Not just sit in it, but carrying life in a backpack is fragile. The loss of an ID stalls benefits. A dead phone severs your caseworker. One sweep can erase a week of progress. Your meds, your appointment card, the bus pass you saved for the clinic. We call it non-compliance. It's really lost paperwork, lost sleep, and lost time. People hack the heat with ingenuity, reflective tarps over bushes, frozen water bottles in socks, rotating shoes to keep blisters dry. They memorize shaded bus stops and which store managers will allow a refill. Dignity is a charge cord and a clean shirt. Hope is a voicemail that actually connects. If survival takes all day, when does recovery begin? The truth is blunt. Recovery begins when the day stops being a chase. When someone says, "You can stay here tonight," and means it tomorrow. When the clinic can promise a refill and a prescriber. When the bed exists and the rules fit a real life with a dog, a partner, a trauma history, and a job interview at 6 a.m. Elias, 61, Army veteran, Yuma. PTSD, heat exhaustion, then fentanyl. He keeps naloxone in his pocket. He used it twice last month, both times on strangers. What looks like chaos from a car window is actually a system working exactly as built. to keep people moving. Next, we ask what it would take to let people stop. 4. Trust on thin ice. In June 2024, the U.S. Department of Justice said Phoenix police unlawfully detained, cited, and arrested people experiencing homelessness and discarded belongings. It was the first ever DOJ pattern or practice finding centered on unhoused people's rights. Fast forward to May 2025. The DOJ closed the investigation and retracted those findings. City leaders praised reforms underway. Advocates called the retreat a betrayal. Look closer. A federal court had already enjoined Phoenix from enforcing camping bans against people with no shelter options and from destroying property without due process. Later, the injunction was modified as appellate rulings shifted the ground. Meanwhile, another court ordered Phoenix to clear the Zone, a massive encampment downtown, after property owners sued over nuisance conditions. City crews complied while juggling the federal limits on enforcement. The result on the ground? Confusion. Residents want storefronts passable. Business owners want safety. People on the street want belongings respected. Officers want clear rules and available beds. Everyone wants the fire out. Policies shifted while tents and patrols didn't. At curb level, trust is a fragile currency. When a sweep tosses a birth certificate, trust collapses. When an officer returns property tagged and intact, trust flickers. When a court order says one thing and a city directive says another, trust evaporates. We hear the same refrain from all sides. Give us a path for business owners to file complaints without escalation, a path for officers to offer shelter that actually exists, a path for unhoused neighbors to reclaim IDs, meds, and dignity without starting over at intake again. The law feels like a swinging bridge. Step wrong and someone falls. A citation that snowballs into a warrant, a cleanup that shreds medical records, a complaint system that rewards removal over resolution. When the DOJ speaks, people expect accountability. When the DOJ reverses, people remember the impacts more than the memos. When a federal finding vanishes, does the harm vanish or just the accountability? Raven, 19, student, Flagstaff. Slept in a Subaru while taking community college classes. A campus cop left water and a crisis card. She says that card got her inside faster than fear ever did. 5. Body and brain. Homelessness is a health condition that housing treats best. Research shows adults experiencing homelessness report poor access to routine care and high ER and hospital use, even with coverage. Stigma blocks help. Arizona's behavioral health system strains. In 2024, the state counted roughly 4,221 inpatient psychiatric beds across hospitals and licensed residential facilities. A key Phoenix psychiatric facility, St. Luke's Behavioral Health Center, was ordered to cease operations in August 2024, tightening capacity. When the bed isn't there, the street is. When the clinic can't hold you, the jail will, not by design, but by default. Families dial crisis lines and wait hours. Mobile teams chase referrals across a metro the size of a small country. A missed telehealth link becomes psychosis. A missed refill becomes a 911 call. Opioids remain lethal. State data and local agencies report more than 5 Arizonans die each day from opioid overdoses, with fentanyl in the lead. In Maricopa County, officials say fentanyl now shows up in about 60% of drug deaths. Heat acts like an accelerant, pain spikes, sleep vanishes. People self-medicate to outrun the sun. The body's margin of error shrinks. Harm reduction teams respond with naloxone and clean supplies. Some nights, it's the only medication anyone can get. Health systems know the prescription: housing plus care. Studies link stable housing and supportive services with reduced mortality and lower acute care use. But building that prescription takes beds, clinicians, peer teams, and time. The very things our crisis-driven system rations. At the clinic door, stigma still whispers. A front desk joke about smell, a side glance at a backpack, one more small cut in a body already full of them. You can't bill a CPT code for respect, but people feel it, and they decide whether to come back. If recovery requires stability, why is the plan to move people every few days? Shauna, 37, Mesa, bipolar 1. She makes every pharmacy window until one refill requires a new prescriber. She misses a telehealth link. 3 days later, psychosis returns. Police become triage. We've medicalized a housing problem and criminalized a health problem. Next, we follow the pressure back to the systems making those choices and the budgets behind them. 6. Systems under pressure. Every doorway says the same thing: full. Crisis lines ring, mobile teams queue, people wait, files grow, AHCCCS flags persistent case management turnover and follow-through problems. Year over year. Shelters added beds, fast. Phoenix funded the Haven for seniors. The North Mountain Healing Center opened Phase 1 with 40 units. The Washington Relief Shelter brought 200 units online. Maricopa County kicked in millions to match and accelerate. Beds help, rules filter. A person without ID can't enter some facilities. A dog means a closed door. A partner means separation. A trauma trigger sends you back outside. A job with overnight hours collides with curfews. Sobriety requirements exclude people who need care most. Staff juggles safety, liability, and mercy. Outreach teams triage the intake maze. They track appointments on whiteboards and phones that die in the heat. They ferry people to clinics that close at 5. They argue politely for exceptions. Sometimes the exception is life-saving. Sometimes the answer is, try tomorrow. Then the law shifts underfoot. In June 2024, the Supreme Court's Grants Pass ruling made it easier for cities to ticket or arrest people for sleeping outside. Arizona cities responded. Several tightened urban camping bans after the ruling. Policies moved faster than permits, cooling centers, and clinical beds. The street felt the lag first. On paper, enforcement comes with an offer of services. In practice, that offer can be a list without an opening, a flyer without a bus pass, a hotline with a hold tone. People hear there's nothing tonight. They hear it again tomorrow. Case managers burn out. Pay lags rents too. Turnover makes trust hard. A relationship breaks just when it begins to work. Paperwork resets. A person's history vanishes into a new chart. We call it continuity. It feels like roulette. We ask officers to carry what the system drops. They become navigators, medics, and social workers in the hottest city in America. They want clear rules and real options. Neighborhoods want relief that lasts longer than a sweep. People on the street want belongings respected and beds that fit real lives. When policy speeds up faster than services, who becomes the city's default social worker? Tyrell, 52, Glendale, diabetic. He waits for a shelter intake, then for insulin, then for a worker to call back. He's told to relocate meanwhile. He loses his cooler. His insulin spoils. The system isn't heartless. It's overloaded. Overload behaves like indifference. Next, we follow the money and the laws that steer it. 7. Law, order, and budgets. Policy is the lever. In November 2024, Arizona voters approved Proposition 312. It lets property owners seek property tax refunds if cities fail to enforce certain public nuisance laws, including illegal camping or loitering. Supporters call it accountability. They say cities will act when money is at stake. Critics warn it may drain local revenue and push police toward crackdowns that don't reduce homelessness. The tension is simple: fund outcomes or fine failures. Budgets tell priorities. Phoenix ramped investments through its Office of Homeless Solutions. Dozens of new shelter units and targeted facilities like the Haven and North Mountain. Maricopa County steered ARPA dollars into shelter and housing, including $7.5 million to Phoenix in late 2024. Statewide spending on homelessness and related services sits near $0.93 to $1.1 billion annually, according to one analysis. Money flows. Results hinge on where it lands. Spend on permanent supportive housing, and you buy stability. Spend on short motel stays, and you buy time. Spend on enforcement alone, and you may buy movement without progress. The invoice returns each summer as heat deaths, ER visits, and overtime. Property 312 adds a new pressure point. A neighborhood files a claim, a city calculates risk, a department shifts deployment, patrol hours rise downtown, outreach waits for a grant cycle. The public sees tents disappear from one block and reappear 2 miles away. We also budget trust. When people lose IDs in sweeps, they lose months. When property is bagged, tagged, and returned, trust grows a little. When shelters allow pets or partners, entries rise. When policies assume relapse happens, retention improves. These choices cost money, and save it. Officers tell me the same thing residents do. They want predictability. Predictable places to refer, predictable rules for storage, predictable responses for crises at 2 a.m. Budget lines can create that predictability. or erase it. If we can refund taxes when sidewalks feel unsafe, can we also fund the exits from the street with the same urgency? Anna, 33, and Luis, 35, Tempe, parents of 2. They sleep in their SUV to keep the family together. A ticket for camping sets them back $180. They skip groceries. Budgets are moral documents written in columns. The columns point somewhere. Next, we measure whether they point to exits or roundabouts. 8. Stigmas, shadow. Words shape policy. Call someone a vagrant, and punishment feels easy. Research shows criminalizing homelessness doesn't reduce it and can push people further from help. Healthcare literature is clear. People experiencing homelessness face barriers and stigma even when they have coverage. Access is low, emergency use is high. Stigma also changes where encampments form. Crackdowns move people into canals, washes, and vacant lots, out of sight, into danger. National advocates warned the court this would happen. If shame could solve homelessness, wouldn't it be solved already? Bev, 58, Casa Grande, breast cancer survivor. A clinic receptionist whispers the homeless one to a colleague. Bev stops going. 3 months later, the mass returns. 9. Sparks of hope. Solutions aren't magic. They're infrastructure. Phoenix added overnight cooling and bridge shelter options in response to deadly heat. Projects like the Haven for Seniors, UMOM family expansions, and North Mountain Healing Center create specific doors for specific needs. City investment totals include $2 to $12.5 million per project, alongside county and state partners. Pima County approved 48 new psych beds at Sonora Behavioral Health. Demand remains high, but more beds matter. Across Arizona, continuums of care report stronger coordinated entry, targeted veteran reductions, and data sharing with health agencies. What if we acted like housing is healthcare and measured success in lives stabilized, not tents removed? Kenji, 41, Phoenix, long-term meth use. Outreach enrolled him in PSH. A peer coach met him weekly. 6 months later, he's working nights and watering his tomato plant at dawn. 10. The next decision. Let's tell the truth. Arizona isn't out of control. Arizona is at a crossroads. On one path, more tickets, more sweeps, more funerals in summer. On the other, housing first, treatment capacity, and dignity baked into every step. The data is blunt. 14,737 Arizonans homeless in 2024, 49.5% unsheltered. 602 heat deaths in Maricopa County in 2024, down from 645. Still too many. $9,931 average rent in Phoenix, a about $56,600 home deficit statewide. Criminalization got easier after grants pass. Cities moved to enforce. But the best evidence says enforcement alone doesn't reduce homelessness. So what do? We fund permanent supportive housing, bridge and family shelters, cooling overnight, behavioral health beds, and peer teams. We track every outcome and publish it. We listen to people living it. We demand that enforcement follows services, not replaces them. If policy is a mirror, what do you want it to reflect back at us? Punishment or possibility? If this reporting mattered to you, smash that like, share it, and subscribe. Join the journey. Arizona is writing its next chapter right now. The question isn't whether we'll pay, it's how and who pays the most.